Welcome to Criminal Cases. Today we are going to talk about a terrible story of betrayal and murder that happened in Arkansas in April 2015. Jonnie Ray Baxter was a 45-year-old man who lived in Arkansas. He was a well-known real estate agent who worked for a local company called Ozark, Clients and Colleagues. He had a degree in business administration from the University of Arkansas and worked in real estate for over 20 years. Jonnie Ray was married to Darlene Baxter, Jonnie Ray, and it looks like a happy couple. Darling Jonnie Ray was his second husband, Darling. He had a stepdaughter, Lily Adams, who was 18, and in her first year at the University of Arkansas, studying psychology. Jonnie Ray got along well with Lily, or seemed out of business to the outside world. Jonnie Ray loved sailing. He owned a small sailboat called the Dreamcatcher. He was often out on Beaver Lake and enjoyed spending weekends on the water, feeling the wind and waves, remembered by his friends at the local marina as someone who was always willing to help and laugh in the days before his death. Engaged in a major real estate transaction, he worked hard to close the sale of a large commercial property in downtown Phil. The deal was so important to him in his career, he was also planning a surprise anniversary trip for my sweetheart, booking a cabin in the Ozarks, mountains, and buying tickets to see a concert in Little Rock. He even picked out a special necklace from a local jewelry store, Sissy's Log Cabin, as a gift for his sweetheart. Despite his busy schedule, Jonnie Ray found time every morning to visit a local coffee shop. Our epics every morning that he enjoys reading the newspaper and chatting with him. Baristas. His favorite drink was a caramel L. On April 10, 2015, 2 days before his death, Jonnie Ray was seen on Saga smiling and talking about his plans for the weekend. He seemed happy, and in the future case seemed excited. But there were hidden problems as his wife, Darling, had been acting stressed and worried lately. He had noticed changes in their daughter, Lily, and was suspicious of Jonnie Ray's late-night business meetings. Friends and neighbors noticed the tension in the Baxter household on April 12th. It was 2015. Jonnie Ray Baxter's body was discovered around 7:30 a.m. The person who found him was his neighbor. Michael was a 52-year-old retired school teacher who lived in a supportive neighborhood that worried Michael dear because he hadn't. Jonnie Ray had heard from the night before that he was out of town and visited his sister and asked Michael to check on her husband. To his surprise, he tried the door. As he entered, he immediately felt something was wrong. The house was unusually quiet. Michael called out for Jonnie Ray, but got no answer and left the living room and went to the kitchen, where he saw signs of home. Fighting chairs were overturned and broken glass on the floor. He followed the chaos and reached the master bedroom. When he opened the door, he was met with the horrifying sight of Jonnie Ray lying on the floor in a pool of blood, shot to death. With a hammer lying nearby, covered in blood, the room was filled with blood splattered on the walls and furniture. It was clear that Jonnie Ray had been fighting for his life. Michael was horrified and immediately pulled his hand out of the room, shaking, and pulled out his hand. Cell phone and dial 911. Her voice shook as she described what she found. The 911 operator tried to keep him calm and told him to stay on the line until the police arrived. They stood outside with police cars and curious neighbors whispering to each other about the shocking event. Local news stations like KSM and K sent reporters to cover the story, and by noon it was the big news in Phil. In a brutal way, he later told reporters that Jonnie Ray was a good man who didn't deserve such a terrible fate. As for those closest to him, police rushed to Baxter's home after Michael Everly called 911 on April 12, 2015. The first officers on the scene immediately secured the area and made sure no one was in the immediate aftermath of Detective Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey, and James Carter is not in or out. Detective Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey was noted for her attention to detail at age 38, who had solved many difficult cases, and her partner, Detective James Carter, was 42 and known for his methodical approach. Detectives walked through the home and found signs of a struggle, with chairs overturned and windows broken in the living room. The ground is surrounded by a pool of blood, where he killed him with a hammer, near the walls and blood-soaked furniture, indicating the brutality of the attack. Mitchell Kinsey mentions the hammer as the murder weapon and orders. In order to close the evidence itself, the crime scene was messy and disturbing. The detectives and the forensic team took many pictures and collected the samples. Using gloves, they carefully removed the items and made sure that no evidence was contaminated. Blood samples, fingerprints, and hammers were all collected and sent out to the lab for analysis. Neighbors watched as police reported. Local news stations, KFSM and KNA, were also there reporting on the shocking murder. Case detectives Mitchell Kinsey and Carter quickly interviewed Michael Everly, who was still reeling from the discovery of the body. He described as finding the door locked and seeing the commotion inside the house. His detailed account helped detectives piece together the events leading up to the murder. Dewey. That day, the police had gathered a lot of evidence, but there were still many questions as to who could commit such a brutal act. Why would someone want to kill Jonnie Ray? He answers that the prime suspect in the murder of Jonnie Ray Baxter was his wife, Darlene Baxter, who was 34 years old and worked as an accountant at a local firm called Razorback Accounting. She was smart, accurate, and hardworking. Darlene had a difficult past. She became a mother at 16 and worked as a dancer to support herself and her daughter Lily. Despite these challenges, she built a successful career and was known for her strong nature. Neighbors described it as suspicious. In the weeks leading up to the murder, Darlene was increasingly stressed and angry. Some said they heard arguments between her and Jonnie Ray. Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter brought Darlene in for questioning on April 13, 2015. She was out of town visiting her sister Nancy in Little Rock. She provided photos and text messages to support her alibi, but the detective still doubted during questioning that Darlene talked about her relationship with Jay Ray and admitted that she had recently. They talked about him more, work, and the amount of time she had spent away from home. She denied involvement in his death, insisting that she loved her husband despite their problems. Detectives asked Darlene about the night of the murder. He left and stayed with Nancy until the morning of April 12th. Nancy confirmed this when the detectives call her, but they can't ignore the tension in Darlene's voice as she talks about Jonnie Ray and the changes she's seen in Lily. The police also searched Darlene's car and belongings for evidence that directly links her to the murder. Searched, but they found a notebook in which Darlene had written about her frustrations and suspicions, which painted a picture of a woman under intense stress and emotional turmoil, despite Darlene's alibi remaining the prime suspect. Their colleagues hoped to find a motive in which any clues could link him to the crime. They had to keep digging to uncover the truth behind Jonnie Ray's brutal murder. The second suspect in Jonnie Ray Baxter's murder was his stepdaughter Lily Adams. Lily was 18 years old and a freshman at the University of Arkansas, where she was studying psychology. An outgoing and sociable personality, her friends described her as intelligent and ambitious, always eager to learn new things. Lily had a complicated relationship with her stepfather Jonnie Ray. During the investigation, it was revealed that their relationship had turned into a secret relationship. The relationship left Lily feeling guilty, especially when she saw the pressure on her mother. Dear Detective Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter brought Lily in for questioning on April 14, 2015. She previously said she felt alone and confused, and that Jonnie Ray was there for her, insisting she would never want to hurt anyone. As trusted, Lily described to detectives the last time she saw Jonnie Ray, the night before his death, and said they had discussed the relationship and the effect it had on their family. Detectives asked Lily about his whereabouts. On the night of the murder, Lily said she was at a friend's house studying for a midterm exam. The friend corroborated this alibi, saying that Lily had stayed there until the early hours of April 12th. Despite that alibi, detectives suspect emotional turmoil. They were. As Lily was crossing, the police also searched Lily's bedroom and belongings for evidence. They found nothing that directly linked her to the murder, but they did find several letters and notes between her and Jonnie Ray. The notes showed the depth of their relationship and feelings. The conflicts they both faced despite her alibi and the lack of direct evidence. Lily remained the prime suspect because of the relationship and the emotional tension it created. While the investigation continued, she maintained her innocence and expressed deep remorse for the affair. The investigation into Lily Adams was complete, but detectives still had many questions to find out the truth behind the brutal murder of Jonnie Ray Baxter on April 17th. They should continue digging. In 2015, 5 days after the murder of Jonnie Ray Baxter, police received a significant break in the case. It was a chilly morning when a jogger spotted something suspicious in a park near Beaver Lake and noticed a plastic bag. It was partially buried under some leaves near a bench. He opened it and found a bloody shirt and a pair of gloves, and immediately called the police. And within minutes, patrol officers Karen Lewis and Tom Martinez arrived, secured the area, and called in detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter. The evidence provided a breakthrough in the case, where they returned the items to the Foyle Police Department's forensics lab. Forensic analysts found the blood on the shirt matched Jonnie Ray's DNA. The investigation had detectives re-examining their list of suspects and re-examining their facts. They also reviewed surveillance footage from the park and nearby areas. This extensive investigation led them to the startling discovery that a figure matching Lily Adams' description had entered the park late at night. The murder brought detectives Mitchell Kinsey and Carter Lilly in for a second round of questioning. This time Lily was visibly more nervous, claiming she had gone to the park to clear her head and had no idea about the bloody items the detectives had asked her for details. They pressed more. It didn't work. But Lily stuck to her story, even as the forensics team continued their analysis and found another vital piece of evidence on the glove's hair fibers that matched Darlene Baxter's DNA. 2015, detectives called Aziz in for questioning. He appeared calm, but became concerned when presented with new evidence. Explain how they ended up near Beaver Lake. The police were now more determined than ever to solve the case. They knew they were close to uncovering the truth, but they had to carefully piece together the last puzzle. The discovery of new evidence is a pivotal moment in the investigation that provides vital clues in intensifying the search for Johnny Ritter's killer. Hey, true crime solvers are interested in more real murder mysteries. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Do you have a comment about this case? Do you have a case of your own? I would like to investigate us. Write your review. Stay safe, real crime case solvers. The third suspect in the murder of Jonnie Ray Baxter was his ex-husband, Baxter's 4-year-old daddy. Had a contentious relationship with Jonnie Ray and never approved of his marriage to darling Diddy. Living in Foyle and working as a manager at a local Hertz grocery store, Detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter decided to bring Diddy in for questioning on April 19, 2015. When he arrived at the police station for questioning, he had a reputation for speaking his mind and not holding back his comments during questioning. Disgusted by his sweetheart calling him a home wrecker and blaming him for the end of his marriage, but Diddy vehemently denied any involvement in Jonnie Ray's murder. Detectives questioned Diddy's whereabouts on the night of April 11, 2015. They put pressure. Drinking wine, she mentioned watching an episode of Dancing with the Stars and going to bed early. There were no witnesses to corroborate her alibi, which made the detective suspicious, including a set of gardening gloves similar to those found in the park, but forensic analysis revealed no blood or DNA on the gloves, despite his alibi, and detectives continued to investigate Dad's potential motive, discovering that Dee Dee recently arrived at this glove. Learning of Jonnie Ray's relationship with Lily added another layer of tension and potential anger. Friends and colleagues told detectives that Diddy called Jonnie Ray a disgrace and vented his anger on anyone who would listen. He expressed his displeasure and was loud. Detectives also interviewed Dee Dee's neighbors, who reported hearing loud arguments coming from her home in the days leading up to the murder. A neighbor, Miss Everly, said she heard Diddy screaming about betrayal and lies, though Diddy remained a suspect. To charge him, he was aggressive during interrogation, but maintained his innocence. Detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence to link him to the crime. The events leading up to Jonnie Ray's murder on April 21, 2015, Finally, after several days of investigation, Detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter found crucial evidence that was captured by a surveillance camera from a nearby gas station. Darlene Baxter's drive to Beaver Lake, late on the night of the murder, it was significant blood that contradicted Darlene's alibi. Detectives Mitchell Kinsey and Carter carefully reviewed the footage and found Darlene's car, a blue Honda Civic, around 11:30 p.m. At night, he showed passing the gas station. April 11th placed him near the crime scene at a critical time, and with this new evidence, detectives were confident they had found Jonnie Ray's killer. On the morning of April 22, 2015, police arrived at Darlene Baxter's workplace and announced that it was a sunny day, and local news stations including KFSM and KWA were already covering the latest developments in the case. Darlene was in her office when the police came in. She looked surprised, but surprised because they found out about her arrest for her husband's murder as Darlene. Released in handcuffs, he still maintained his innocence, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The relationship between Jonnie Ray and Lily made Darlene very angry, and he felt betrayed by his wife and daughter. And detectives believe that on the night of the murder of my beloved, he encountered Jonnie Ray. The confrontation turned violent, and Darlene grabbed a hammer and hit her several times. Darlene's arrest shocked neighbors in the community, and friends couldn't believe that an intelligent, hard-working woman they knew could commit such a violent act. The news spread quickly, with headlines in the Fayetteville Observer and segments on local news stations detailing the arrest. Jonnie Ray's family had mixed reactions, some relieved that the killer had been caught, while others were devastated by the betrayal. Lily especially heartbroken that her stepfather and he had lost his mother. Within days, the family's emotional toll was high. As Darjeeb was taken to the police station, he continued to deny involvement, but detectives were confident in their findings, which surveillance footage, along with forensic evidence and Darjeeb's conflicting statements, clearly showed. It shows. The murder of Jonnie Ray Baxter exposed deep family secrets and left a lasting impression on those who knew the police had solved the case, but the emotional scars linger longer. Aziz Baxter's trial for the murder of her husband, Jonnie Ray Baxter, began on July 15, 2015, at the Washington County Courthouse in Fayetteville. Robert Stevens, 45, who was known to be strict and relentless in court, was wanted. The woman was pushed to her breaking point by betrayal and emotional turmoil. He presented surveillance footage of Darlene's car near Beaver Lake and forensic evidence from the crime scene, and conflicting statements she gave to police on the other side of the defense by attorney Michelle Williams, a 39-year-old man known for his calm demeanor and sharp legal mind. He argued that Darez was innocent, and that the evidence, Williams said, suggested that someone else might have committed the murder out of jealousy or anger. He questioned the reliability of the surveillance film and noted that no witness had seen Azizi commit a crime during the trial. Jonnie Ray's family sat in the front row, watching the proceedings with a mixture of anger and sadness, with Lily in particular grappling with the emotional weight of the court having lost her stepfather. And now, after 2 weeks of testifying, he faces the prospect of losing his mother to a lengthy prison term. Darlene showed little emotion as the Jonnie Ray family wept and hugged each other as the verdict was read. Local news immediately reported the verdict, and the story was widely reported in the Fayetteville Observer. Judge Lisa Everly Aziz was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The evidence clearly showed Darez's guilt, and that the crime was the result of betrayal and intense personal anger. The judge expressed sympathy for Jonnie Ray's family and hoped the sentence would bring some closure to them. Reaction to the sentence. Some members of the community felt that justice had been served, while others believed that the sentence was too harsh given Darlene's difficult past and the emotional stress she put on Jonnie Ray's family, but there was a sense of relief. They thought that this tragedy is over, and the person responsible for this work feels relieved. Death was found responsible. The trial and sentencing marked the end of a sad chapter for the Baxter family and the Foyle community. The murder and its aftermath left deep emotional scars, but the verdict brought a sense of justice and a step toward healing after Aziz Baxter. Life is slowly returning to normal for those involved in the tragic murder of Jonnie Ray Baxter, as Darling is now serving his sentence at the Arkansas Department of Corrections. Based on her active daily activities, the media coverage surrounding the trial gradually faded away and was replaced by new stories and events in Ville, such as the annual Blues Bike Race and Motorcycle BBQ Rally. Lily Adams, now 19, returned to the University of Arkansas to continue her education. He continued to study psychology and struggled with guilt. In grieving over her role in the affair that ultimately led to her stepfather's death, Lily sought counseling to help her cope with the emotional aftermath and struggled to rebuild her relationship with her family. He stayed away from the media attention by focusing on his studies and volunteer work locally. Meanwhile, Detective Sarah Mitchell Kinsey was recognized for her role in solving the high-profile case. He continued to work at the Fayetteville Police Department, investigating other crimes and mentoring younger detectives. Investigative skills to fight drug-related crimes in the area. In the community of Fayetteville, the impact of Jonnie Ray's murder lingered on neighbors, and friends remembered him as a friendly and successful real estate agent who loved boating on Beaver Lake, the Rotary Club. The local held a memorial service. In his honor, a plaque was erected in downtown Fayetteville to commemorate his life and contributions to the community. Johnny's family, especially his first wife Dee Dee, found comfort in each other's company and supported Dee Dee as she continued her career at the store. Hart's Food focused and supported him. She participated in local charity events, such as the Susan J. Komen Race for the Cure in Benville, and was careful to keep her family together and support her grandchildren, who missed their stepfather. Since the tragic events of April 2015 have remained a part of Fayetteville's history, the community has shown support and understanding to the Baxter family. This tragic case of love, betrayal, and murder is a stark reminder of human complexity, relationships, and the destructive consequences of uncontrolled emotions. Thank you for joining us on this episode of True Crime Cases.